Hello everyone and welcome back to the 3T Path channel. Welcome back to our Uddhava-gita course. Now we're doing this wonderful chapter on the power of jnana yoga. And what we're going to see today specifically is a brilliant, perfect explanation by Krishna of why there is evil in the world. And it's got all to do with our mindsets and with jnana, the topic of the chapter of understanding things correctly and creating the right priorities. So first, in the last class, the last two classes actually, we went over these 15 wonderful bhakti yoga practices. Krishna was teaching how to trigger bhakti yoga, how to engage that, how to follow that path, because that path gives you the highest possible results. So we went over all those qualities, and if you want to see those two classes and the other hundreds, we have over 100 classes in this course already. All you have to do is become a member of this channel, and the instructions are here in the description of the video. And then you check out Uddhava-gita.com where you can see the entire course. So here we are, we're in the 11th canto, 19th chapter, verse 25. So having described these 15 top bhakti yoga practices, Krishna says this: when one's peaceful consciousness, strengthened by the mode of goodness, is fixed on the personality of Godhead, one achieves dharma, jnana, so righteousness, knowledge, jnana, vairagya, detachment, and opulence. So Krishna says, so this is one, and we're going to compare this path, let's call this the path of light, with the path of darkness, which we'll see in the next verse, which we'll understand about evil. So what we see here is, what do you need? You have to create the right state of consciousness. That's what we're doing here. That's what Krishna's teachings are all about. Bhagavad-gita, Bhagavad Purana, the path of yoga, everything we're doing here on this channel. It's all about taking responsibility for your state of mind and then learning how to adapt and adjust and elevate your state of mind, your state of consciousness. This is what yoga is. Yoga means the science of the mind, of understanding consciousness, of manipulating consciousness in such a way that you get the best out of life. It's the best situation for yourself and for those around you. So, here Krishna says, what we want, shanta, shanta, shanti, shanti, shanti. We want peace. We want a peaceful state of consciousness. But how do we cultivate a peaceful state of consciousness? Strengthened by sattva, the mode of goodness, sattva. So what I always explain in my 3T Path book, you see there is a lifestyle required to aid in adjusting your mind. You can't just say you want to adjust your mind. You can't just say I want to have a peaceful mind if your habits, if your lifestyle doesn't direct you, doesn't strengthen you in that regard. So the sattva lifestyle, what you eat, how you maintain cleanliness and organization in your life, in your clothes, in your body, so cleanliness, purity, the choice of words, how you speak influences your mind, who you hang out with, if you do drugs or if you avoid drugs, alcohol, cigarettes too. What kind of cultural consumption do you have? What are you watching? What are you listening to? These things all affect you. And so there's a lifestyle that goes with it, sattva. It's called a sattvic lifestyle. There's a whole huge part of yoga. In Bhagavad Gita, there are 18 chapters in the whole of Bhagavad Gita. 2.5 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita is Krishna talking about the modes, the gunas, showing us how to cultivate sattva guna. That's a huge chunk of information dedicated because it is so important. All the other stuff, if you try to do the meditation and this, if you do the other things without preparing the ground for it, it doesn't work. In the traditional yoga and Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, what do you start with? You start with yamas and niyamas. First the basics, first the rules. How do you set up your life, your moral compass? Then yama niyama, then asana. So you don't even sit down, you don't even try to meditate. Now even just sitting down, just meditating is going to come in the 7th step. So this is the 3rd step, sitting down. But you don't even get to the 3rd step, sitting down, before doing yamas and niyamas. And Patanjali is very dramatic almost when it comes to that. He says, look, there's no talk about it. Like nobody can get out of this. Doesn't matter who you are, when you are, what's going on. Yamas and niyamas, these vows are unavoidable. You have to do them. This like non-negotiable. And that's what it means, it's sattva guna. You have to have sattva guna, you have to have the proper lifestyle, because the proper sattva guna lifestyle, just changing your diet, if you still eat animal products, if you still eat animals, just try that, just try it for 3 weeks and you'll see huge difference, huge impact on your mind. Never mind that it's so much better for the planet, on your body, just for your mind. See the difference. See the difference. You've experienced the difference when you go somewhere peaceful, you go off in nature instead of being in a just try to, how do you feel just by cleaning your house, your apartment? And then everything's clean, you put clean bed sheets on, everything's organized, you've picked up stuff from the floor, everything is in the closet, everything is nice and organized. How does that feel? It's so much better. So sattva guna strengthens this peaceful consciousness which we develop through yoga. Now, what do we do with that peaceful consciousness though? This is Krishna's going all the way. He's saying, look, fixed on God. Of course, that's what, Krishna came to tell us about. That's what Bhagavad-gita, Bhagavad Purana, that's what the whole path of yoga is. Over and over again, even again, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, Ishvara Pranidhana, that's the basis. Even in the niyamas, before asana, what's the last thing of the niyamas? Ishvara Pranidhana. Focus on God. Even before you sit down, before asana, yama niyamas, last item of niyama, Ishvara Pranidhana. And of all the things to meditate on, what does Patanjali say? That if you focus on Ishvara Pranidhana, on Ishvara, that will give you samadhi siddhi, that will give you the perfection of yoga samadhi. So always Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, of all the yogis, the bhakti yogi, he's the highest. He says that, end of chapter 6. And then of course all of Bhagavad Gita is about bhakti, about fixing your mind, directing. And we just of course had several of these 2 classes, we were just talking about the top 15 bhakti yoga practices. Because this connection is love, this is the highest state. Otherwise you get lost, you get bored, it doesn't work. So it's the highest state, it's the connection, it's what makes the soul come to life, is love. Love, bhakti is love. So this path of love, your mind is peaceful. You have a lifestyle that supports this peaceful state of mind, and then with that huge beautiful situation of a peaceful mind, a beautiful life, then you direct that to God, and then it's wonderful. However, if you try to connect with God without these things, it's dangerous. I always say this. Devotion is one of the biggest problems with the world. Look at the history of the world. Why do people, why there's so many atheists, and why do people don't like religion? Why? Because people skipped this peaceful state of consciousness and sattva guna. They skipped this and went directly to bhakti. But no, again, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, yamas and niyamas, there's a whole list, 5 yamas. There are 4 other niyamas before you get to Ishvara pranidhana before you get to devotion. Devotion without peaceful consciousness, devotion without having a life in the mode of goodness and sattva guna is dangerous. You get what you see in the world. You get fanaticism, you get religious wars, you get people torturing, you get inquisition, you get horrible states of mind, horrible actual states like countries because of religion without sattva guna, without a peaceful consciousness. So you need to have the package of peaceful consciousness, a proper sattva guna lifestyle, and then focus on God. Now, with that, so if you do that, what do you get? Krishna says 4 things here on this list. He says, first, you get dharma. So dharma means doing your best, being moral, correct, your duty, your essence, living the best version of yourself, knowing what's right. Dharma means compassion, truthfulness. Just means being the best person you can be. You want to be around dharmic people. You want a situation of dharma for society to flow well, for you to be happy, for your consciousness to be at peace. So dharma, of course, the very basis of everything. The basis of all that we're doing here is dharma. So when you do this, you get dharma. Second, you get jnana. Because there's this connection that's always being laid out here by Krishna. There's this connection between dharma, jnana, and sattva. So sattva, the state of purity, the state of what we call the mode of goodness, translated, sattva guna. Sattva guna, Krishna explains in Bhagavad-gita, when you're in sattva guna, you can see dharma. You know what's right. You know what you have to do, you know what you don't have to do, what you shouldn't do. You can see things clearly. I talk about this a lot as well. And one of the beautiful things about this path is that you have mental clarity. It's wonderful to have mental clarity, where you can see things as they are, you can understand things, you can see your path. Everything is clear. There's no noise, there's no confusion. So you can see dharma. So when you have sattva, sattva gives you dharma. And when you're in dharma, you naturally get jnana as well. These things are connected. You can understand, you can absorb knowledge when you're in sattva guna. If you're not in sattva guna, you don't absorb knowledge. You don't understand things. Your mind is too confused. And you more easily will accept lies, conspiracy theories. Because you're confused, you have other things going on, your mind is too distracted, too agitated. This is what we see in the world today. People have their minds so agitated, they can't be bothered to understand the truth. So they accept conspiracy theories and lies and misinformation, and they follow populist leaders feeding them lies. That's what they want because they're agitated, cultivating anger. They want these things. They want to work with agitation of the mind. Fear and anger, confusion, ignorance. That's the opposite of what we're doing here. Peaceful consciousness strengthened by the mode of sattva guna. So, you get dharma, you get jnana. Then you get vairagya. That's another very interesting proof that you're living your life correctly, that you get vairagya. So you notice that you get this detachment. You're not so attached to the world. You're not so hankering after things and positions because you're focused on dharma. You're more interested in doing the right thing than in having the right things. You want to be money isn't your priority. Your priority is doing the right thing. Comfort isn't your priority. Doing the right thing, dharma is your priority. So it's not money, it's not status, it's not things, it's dharma. More important than anything else for you is being the best version of yourself, is doing the right thing. It's truthfulness, it's compassion. These things are more valuable than everything else, than all the things of the world, than money, than status, than position. And because of that, you feel vairagi, you're like, look, I'm not attached to these things. It's not that I need these things, and we'll see this in the next verse. I don't need these things more than I need dharma. I need dharma more. And because you're experiencing bhakti, this bhakti fills your heart with love, with satisfaction. Because you get more and more into bhakti, Krishna becomes more and more important. Your heart is filled with Krishna. And because of that, you're fully satisfied, you're in bliss, you're in increasing bliss. So in this state of dharma, jnana, and the bliss of bhakti, the material things, they don't appeal to you so much. They're not important. You don't hate them. You don't have to reject them. But you don't prioritize them over anything else that you're already doing. They take a back seat to the things that are really important, that are true to your soul. Dharma, jnana, bhakti. So then you get vairagya. And then Krishna says you also get aishvaryam, opulence. Aishvarya. You get this opulence and you feel like there's nothing lacking you. They say the richest person is the person who doesn't want anything. That's wealth. When you don't want anything. If you have, $10 million, but you're just like so upset that you don't have that, $100 million yacht, then you're poor. Because you don't have something. You can't afford them, you're poor. You can have $100 million, but I wanted that, I wanted billions. I wanted to have, that $1 billion, private submarine or something. So I can't afford it, so then you're poor. You have $100 million and you're poor because your house only has 30 rooms, and you wanted a house with, your neighbor has a house with 40 rooms. Or you only have 3 houses and your neighbor has 5 houses and you're like, oh man, I wanted 5 houses. So you're poor. So, opulence, but also going into more mystery here, opulence also means just having this power to be able to have everything you need. For example, Arjuna was the emperor, the Pandavas were the emperors of the world. Dhruva was the emperor of the world. So this path of dharma, of sattva, of bhakti, also if you still want anything from this, if you're still interested, you will get more and more opulence. We just saw recently in the Gita Mahatmya series how just focusing on chapter 18 of the Bhagavad-gita will grant you the position of Lord Indra. So if you want opulence, sure, you have the position of Lord Indra. That's what you'll get as well. You get because it's such a purifying state. By following dharma, you're accumulating massive amounts of good karma. That's just the rule of the universe. And then by having the blessings of God as well, there's no limit. So we saw in Gita Mahatmya, you can attain the position of Lord Indra in the next life if you want. Because this path is, you're not committing any more sins, you're not accumulating any more karma. And then you're doing just the right thing, you're just accumulating massive amounts of goodwill. So this is opulence, Aishvarya. Okay, so this is the path of light. Let's read the purport and then we'll see the path of darkness. A pure devotee becomes shanta by desiring everything for the service of the Lord and nothing for himself. He is strengthened by transcendental or purified mode of goodness, sattva-guna, and thus achieves the supreme dharmic principle of directly serving the Lord. He also achieves jnana, or knowledge of the Lord's form and his own spiritual body, detachment from material piety and sin, and the opulence of the spiritual world. One who is not a pure devotee of the Lord, however, but whose devotion is mixed with a fascination for mystic knowledge, is strengthened by the material mode of goodness. Through his meditation on the Lord, he achieves the lesser results of dharma, jnana, and vairagya, Ultimately, one should be a pure devotee of the Lord, since even the best the material world has to offer is most insignificant compared to the kingdom of God. Okay, now the path of darkness. Verse 26, when consciousness is fixed on the material body, home, and other similar objects of sense gratification, one spends one's life chasing after material objects with the help of the senses. Consciousness, thus powerfully affected by Rajaguna, the motive passion, becomes dedicated to impermanent things. And in this way, adharma, the opposite of dharma, adharma, ajnana, ignorance, the opposite of jnana, attachment, the opposite of vairagya, detachment, and wretchedness arise. Wretchedness, the opposite of aishvarya. Two different paths with very different results. Now let's understand this path. Now what happens is, very precise explanation yoga gives you. When your mind becomes attached to material things, when you become a materialist, when your priorities in your life is guided by material things and material goals. That's a materialist. That's the opposite of a yogi. So a yogi is living in the here and now, guided by dharma, by just doing what's right, by truthfulness, by duty, doing the best you can to be the best person you can be. That's the yogi. And he's in the here and now, and he's doing all that in bhakti, as a loving offering to God. Now, the non-yogi, his mind is not in the here and now. His mind is always in the, what I call the fantasy paradigm. Your mind is drifting towards the future. You're thinking, you're hankering after things non-stop. Krishna describes Rajaguna, which is mentioned here. In Bhagavad-gita, he describes it as unlimited desires, and thus unlimited anxiety. You just want. You want this thing and that thing and this and that person and that look and that status and buy this. And as soon as you come back from huge shopping and you want to buy more, you want more and more and more. You have this house, but you want that house. You want other houses. You want this car, but you want that car. You want more cars, and you have this phone, but when's the next phone? More and more and more. So when you're focused like that, what happens when you do that? Okay, now I want things. I'm a materialist. Now what happens is your consciousness becomes affected by the state of mind. It becomes affected by Rajaguna. And in Rajas, I am now prioritizing not what's right, not truth, not compassion. No, these things are dharma. I'm not prioritizing those things. I'm prioritizing material goals. So those things become bigger in my mind. Greed, Krishna says, there are 3 portals to hell. Greed, lobha. Kama, desire for things. And krodha, anger. But why are they portals to hell? Because they take over your mind. They become bigger and bigger. And that's what's guiding you. If what I'm being guided by is desire or greed or anger, I am no longer, there's no more room in my consciousness for what's right, for dharma. I don't care what's right. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the thing I want. Oh, I want $1 million. Okay, but what about this, we have this ecological impact here, but I'll make more money? I'll make more money. Oh, I've got this great idea. I'm going to cheat people out of money. I'll make $1 million easy. But what about those people? What? I'm not even thinking about those people being hurt. with my stealing. Who cares about that? My goal isn't what's right or what's wrong. I'm talking about the object. I want to have $1 million. So that becomes my goal. That's what I'm thinking about. How do I get my $1 million? How do I get fame? How do I get my political power? Oh, we're going to have to lie and these people are going to be... Yeah, so is it going to work? Is it going to take me to that goal of mine? Then whatever. Because you're not even thinking about it. You're not even having this question that, oh, but what about, this doesn't even come up in your mind. What about the ecology? What about people getting hurt? What about stealing being a bad thing? That doesn't even compute. It doesn't even come in to the mind. Because it's just like, no, I'm going for that. How do I get it? That's what happens when you have material goals. When they become bigger than Dharma. You can have Dharma, and then within your Dharma, you're like, okay, what can I do? That's fine. I'm not saying that you have to renounce and live under a tree. Nobody's saying that. Arjuna wasn't living under a tree. Arjuna was the emperor of the world. It's not about not having things. It's about what's in your consciousness. What is the thing that's dominating your mind? Is it Dharma, jnana, and bhakti? That's the path of light we just saw in the last verse. Or is it things, position, power? That's what makes all the difference. Because when you put things, position, power, it takes over. It consumes your consciousness. And there's no more room left for Dharma. There's no more room left for questioning, for morality. It becomes, the more the desire, the less room there is for Dharma. The more the person is focused on their goals, the more materialistic they are, the less room in the mind for ethics and morality, for Dharma. It's a simple concept. Your mind is there, and the more you fill your mind with one thing, naturally you'll take away room for the other things. That's how consciousness works. It's a beautiful understanding. I hope I'm transmitting this here, because it affects our lives, it affects our world. The bigger the thing in your mind is, the less room there is for other things. And that's why on the path of bhakti, the more bhakti you have, the less room there is for material things. So you focus on Dharma, otherwise your mind is taken over by greed, by lust, by desire, by power, by these things, by materialistic concepts. Now, I hope you understood that. So, and then what's the result of these things? So let's look here. So when you do this, Krishna says you get the very opposite of what was described in the last verse. So when you're a materialist, what you'll get is you become dedicated to impermanent things, right? That's exactly what we see. Because you might think that, sports car is wonderful, and that mansion, and that political post, or whatever. These things might look very amazing, but they're all impermanent. They're all impermanent. All the dictators in the past, they're all dead. A lot of them, were murdered and killed before they, so you get taken out. And all the things you buy, they become useless. You have these, these beautiful, amazing sports cars. Then you look at them and, 20 years later, they're worth so little. Who cares? Nobody wants it anymore. Nobody wants a 30-year-old Rolls Royce. It's like you can buy it for, the price of a economic car. Nobody wants it. So these things are impermanent. These position, power, so it just goes. And of course, your body's going to go. You're going to die. So anyway, these things are all impermanent. So you get attached to, dedicated to impermanent things, and this way, because of this, because of rajas, because of Rajaguna makes you just get full of anxiety and desire. So because of Rajaguna, you're chasing after impermanent things. And this way, and this is the way you have adharma. Again, like I said, you have no more room for dharma. Your mind is, you don't worry about what's right, what's wrong. You don't care about that. You just focus on the material goals. So you get adharma, you get ajnana, you get ignorance. Because where does knowledge and truth and wisdom come in? Who cares about wisdom when you just want to make $1 million, when you want to take over that political post, when you want to become powerful? Who cares about wisdom? There's no room, there's nothing to do with wisdom. It's a different field altogether. It's got nothing to do with it. It's about strategy, it's about tricks, it's about, how to get there, how to be able to achieve your goals, but it's got nothing to do with wisdom, jnana, knowledge of the truth, no. So you get ajnana, and then of course, you get attachment, you get very attached, right? You get super greedy, that's what you want. You identify with these things. You want the power, you want the things, you want the money. It's like you're very attached, and you're very attached to your body. So you get lots of attachment, and of course with attachment comes all these anxiety and suffering and pain and fear because of attachment. And wretchedness arises. You get wretched. It's a horrible life. Because of this, you have a horrible life. So that's why there is evil in the world. That's why there's evil in the world. Because people let their minds get fixed on material body, home, and other similar objects of sense gratification. That's why. Purport. In the previous verse, Lord Krishna explained the auspicious result of fixing the mind in Him. And now the opposite is explained. Rajasvalam indicates that one's passion grows so strong that one commits sinful activities and reaps all types of misfortune. Although materialistic people are blind to their impending wretchedness, one can confirm by all types of evidence, namely Vedic injunctions, direct observation, traditional wisdom, and inductive logic, that the result of violating the laws of Dharma, the laws of God, are disastrous. So that's it. Let's stop here for now. Have your rest of your day with lots of peace and lots of love. Hare Krishna.